I had my mic muted.
Okay.
Call Jeff now at 503-589-1220.
Okay.
503-589-1220. Let's return now to more of Political Coffee with Jeff Krupp.
$24 till the top of the hour. Welcome back to Political Coffee, folks. That's where we talk about the political issues of the day. Well, that really make a difference in your life and how you can use them or think about them to change your world. And you do that by persuading the persuadable. So today's Freedom Friday. It's called the Freedom Friday Free for All. That means you can call and talk about anything you want to talk about. But we're going to put that on hold for a moment, because in a moment we're going to talk with a guy who's going to tell us a personal story of what it's like to be in hell. To be in the middle of a forest fire and stand and defend your property when you're not supposed to, and how there was a miracle. We'll talk about that in a moment. You know, this, you want to change your world? Well, there's a way that you can do it. You can join us tomorrow at the Gathering of the Eagles Rally Around the Flag. This is our 12th year of this event. It's held on the private ranch, the Ames Ranch, for those of you who remember Ames Curtright. It's held up at his place. It's going to be in the airplane hangar. You can. It's a totally free event. Our keynote speaker is from the Trump campaign. We had to jump through some hoops to get her here. Her name is Jessie Jane Duff. She's flying out of North Carolina to come just to this event and turn around and flying home. She was in the Marine Corps for a long time. She is Veterans for Trump and Women for Trump. That's who she represents. She's here to come and talk about the Trump campaign. Kim Thatcher will be there. Jeff Goodman running for treasurer. They're part of the state land board if they both get elected. That makes decisions about things like harvesting timber in a way that doesn't produce forest fires. We have a federal issues panel. We have a state issues panel. We're going to talk about all of that. But more importantly, we have training that'll benefit you and become more effective at changing your world. Training will be by Freedom Works out of Washington, D.C. They're going to be supporting the event. They'll be out, and also Western Liberty Network. And I'll be a part of that training. But, well, specifically how you can help a candidate at any level and how you can get out the vote. And with the chicanery that we know will happen by the Democrats, yeah, this is important, friends. So you must register online. It's free. Lunch is free. Pizza is free. This is tomorrow. Go to OregonLibertyCoalition.org. OregonLibertyCoalition.org. And you can register for free. If you don't register and you show up, we have a security team. And we're going to put you off to the side. And if we can't determine that you know somebody and that you should be there, you're going to have to leave. So you must pre-register. Go to OregonLibertyCoalition.org and you can register. So what's it like to stand and fight for your property and your home in the middle of a fire with fire all around you? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to talk to Scott Rohter right now. Scott, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Now, you're talking to us via Skype because you don't have telephone service because the fire apparently took that out, but you do have internet service. So, Scott,
Yeah.
Why did you stay and not evacuate your home outside of the McKenzie River in Vida?
Well, Jeff, you know, the first thing I did before the fire came here was I got on the phone and talked to you, and you said stay and defend your property. And I think it was the best advice you've probably ever given me, because if I would have left, they wouldn't have bothered to save my little manufactured house. There weren't enough personnel here when we really needed them. There's plenty now after the fire's done. There's plenty now running around putting out little hot spots that really aren't a threat. But when we really needed people, when the fire was raging and coming right up at people's homes, there weren't nearly enough people here. And so my house is nothing compared to the $1 million homes all along Good Pasture Road. $1 million homes, 15,000 square foot homes that would be big enough for a hotel, log cabins that look like something at the Grand Canyon resort for people, tourist attraction. I mean, Jeff, they're all nothing but ashes now. There were there were explosions all night long as the fire struck their propane tanks. I didn't know what that was until I took a tour of the street and saw all these propane tanks with fire coming out of the top. It sounded like water cannon going off all night long as people's homes were burning and their propane tanks and cars exploded. Wow. But I stayed because you suggested I defend my property, and it's the only reason my house survived. Because when I was down to the last few minutes and the fire was 60 feet from the side of the house coming down the mountain, looking for bear at my house, and my tractor was overheating because the coolant cap came off the radiator overflow reservoir, and I heard the engine gurgling, and I had done about all I could do, and I was blading the front of the house thinking the fire was going to come from the riverside, and it came back from the mountainside. It jumped the river, came down, and I couldn't get in there with the tractor. So I was packing my suitcases ready to leave, and somebody from Oregon Department of Forestry, God bless that man, he was an angel. He came up the driveway and asked if I needed help. And I pointed to my house and the fire coming down at it. I said I didn't have insurance. And he looked me right in the eye and he said twice, "Your house will not burn down." And he sent 2 crews here, 6 or 7 people with chainsaws, cut all the brush around the house on the mountainside and started raking it, and then gave me some courage. I turned back the tractor on. It had a little time to cool down, and I started raking it away, and they started raking it away and tossing everything off my porch that would burn. And in about 2 hours, they felt it was safe enough to leave and go help my neighbor's house. He'd evacuated, but they went over there to see how they could make it safe. And then I had the code to the gate across the street. There was a fire raging 100 feet in the air from my neighbor across the street because he had stored, he's the pump, Mackenzie pump, and he had stored all of his plastic pipe and fiberglass tanks, and they were all out in the yard with flames 100 feet in the air. And they went over there and put that out, put it down. Jeff, it's the best advice I ever got: stay and defend my house, because it would have been consumed, as 80% of the homes, most of the homes here are gone. I don't think the state's ever going to fully recover from this. There is a road that branches off a Good Pasture Road called Cascade View Drive. It looks like a nuclear holocaust. There's not a living tree on the whole mountain, and all the homes are consumed. It's a tragedy.
So let me ask you, Scott, let me ask you this. So how many places survived? How many homes survived?
Jeff, I don't know, but I counted on my street alone. I counted 24 homes consumed, and I didn't go up the steep drive. Some of them are locked. I've heard information from the sheriff and from one other person that stayed that 10% of the state of Oregon is evacuated. That's 350,000 people are not living in their homes. There's at least 1,000 homes that are impacted, destroyed, or badly damaged. And one estimate is close to 80% of the homes are destroyed. I don't know if that's accurate. It's very hard to tell. I've been asked not to make my own list public because now the feds have come in with the money, and they don't want any competing narrative would be the way to say it. They want all the information to be dispatched from, I think it's called USAR, United States I don't know what AR stands for, but USAR. And so I ceased publishing my list, but most of the homes on my street are gone. And it's just it's a catastrophe. And as America moves on, now there's a hurricane. People are going to forget about Oregon, but Oregon will never, ever be the same again.
Well, I think you're right. So let me ask you this. Do you think that you could have prepared better for the fire in terms of removing the underbrush and that type of thing and keeping trees further away from your home? And what will you do different in the future?
So I have to bring this back to politics. In the future, first of all, now I'm walking up and down the mountain behind the house, tossing rocks off the mountain because those rocks store heat and they ignite brush fires. In the ground, underneath the dirt, where these stumps have been left from logging operations that are continuing to burn hotter than you can imagine under the ground, with rocks around it storing the heat. I'm tossing all the rocks down, getting rid of them. If I can, I'll dig up the stumps, which should have been dug up by the logging operations. This is a combination, in my opinion. I have to bring it back to politics. It's forest mismanagement policy. It's power company insanity to string their wires through tall trees, because half these fires were probably ignited as the wind blew the trees down and the wires fell and hit the brush and started fires that way. And then the logging companies are not without fault either, because I don't know.
All right, we're at the end of our time, Scott. We're going to have to go. Thanks for sharing with our audience what it's like to stand and defend your home with fire all around you. Scott Rohter, folks. Back in a moment, one last segment on Freedom Friday. What do you want to talk about?